This is known as the Smuteye Central, and it has this outer loop and an inner loop, and I'll explain a little bit about it, but the main thing I wanted to touch base on is I've got a lot to do out here, and I'm really excited about this because already this is a better layout than the one that I had as a kid. It's better built, and the trains are running a whole lot better than they did when I was a lot younger. But right here you can see the race section. That's going to be the race section. I've got it cut out with cardboard and wood and that. So there'll be a bridge here and a bridge over there, perhaps a tunnel over there. But there's a reason that I wanted to do this. And I want to tell you a little bit about the Smuteye Central. So let's go indoors and we'll go up to the studio, and I'll introduce you to the Smuteye Central and give you a little bit of background as to the history of this particular layout. So I decided I want to build this layout, and I found it on Pinterest. I was looking at different track plans, and I spent months going through track plans trying to find something that would work for 8x4 or 8x10 or something. I'm putting it in the garage, and I ran across this thing in Pinterest, and I did some research on it, and it turns out that this is Bill Barron's 1963 plan, and he called it the Smuteye Central. And it was featured in the Railroad Model Craftsman magazine, December of 1963, volume 32, number 7. I found this online. They want $20 for it. I don't know if I want to shell that out or not. But they did have the track plan. I found this track plan, like I said, online. And I like this for several reasons, and I'll just kind of go through them. First of all, it had a yard. The track plan that I built as a kid, I had a kind of a yard kind of squeezed in, and I liked the idea of the yard to be able to switch out and build trains, but they always derailed. My turnouts weren't any good, and it was more frustrating to get into the yard than not, so I just used the old 050 to set up trains and run them around the track. So so immediately this interested me because there's a yard on this plan. The other thing I liked is there are several businesses or industries right down here in the bottom right hand corner. There's a furniture factory, there's a textile mill, and you have to get into them different ways, back in or whatever. There's a coal trestle, so there's a coal dumping station, which will be interesting. It has a sawmill in the plan, and over on the left side there's a foundry, and that's at an elevation of 3 inches above the yard. And there's a mine, which is an inch higher than the foundry at 4 inches. So there's different elevations, so that means there's grades and things. So the trains will be going up and down hills and across bridges, and that. So there's a station here at the bottom, and a freight station. So there's 8 different places for trains to go, and a station means passenger service as well as the freight thing. So I can run both passenger trains and freight on this, so that makes it very versatile. And then there's 7 bridges on board this thing. Some of them go over other trains, some of them go over a stream or over a lake. So there's plenty of things to do there. So there's also places for derailments, if you will. But that is interesting to me, to be able to add these bridges. So I've got elevation changes and bridges and water features. There's plenty of things in here to do, and it's not the standard 8x4. He made it 8x5, so you can have a little bigger radius, which means you can run longer cars or big steam locomotives, whichever the case may be. It also has a tunnel, which I really like. You gotta have a tunnel. The trains appear and disappear, so there's a tunnel on this plan. And then there's a reversing loop located right here, and it goes down to here. So the reversing loop, I can turn the trains around and then come back the other way. So you can load a train up and run it one way and do all the drop-offs and pickups going that direction. Then you hit the reversing loop and pick up the remainders on your way back into the yard. So there's plenty of operational interest on this layout plan. I thought it was really good. Then I found out that it also appeared in the ON30 annual in 2014. They called it the return of the Smuteye Central. And what they did is they built this thing in O gauge using the HO rail for a narrow gauge O gauge, and it was for a fundraiser for some charity, and they raffled it off at a train show in 2014. So there's the return of the Smuteye Central in 2014. So it made a comeback all those years later. Well, I'm building what I would call version 3 of this thing, and I'm adding an outer loop, and then on the bottom left I got a part that breaks off, and I add another line in the yard, and that's my arrival departure track, and then it hooks into the inner loop to get into the layout. I don't have it marked here. I'm not very good with the computer and drawing lines and such, but there's the plan. I'm also going to add one more industry with a cattle place to pick up cattle in stock. But I really wanted to have an outer loop, so I made this 10 feet wide, and long, and 6 feet wide. That was so I accommodate this outer loop. And let me take you out to the garage and show you just why this was so important to me. So one of the reasons I wanted this outer loop is I wanted to have this arrival departure track. This will allow for trains to come and go from the layout, because the layout is this central section inside the tape here. That's the layout. My addition is this outer loop, which will allow trains to come on and off, and I can run them around and use the old 050 to take cars off the layout and bring them back on the layout, and then I can run them around the outer loop and bring them into onto the stage, if you will. And that's one of the reasons, but the main reason I wanted to put together this outer loop is because of this right here. I wanted to have a wider curve, because typically they're 18, 20 inch, 19 inch radius, and I wanted the wide radius because of this. I wanted to run this nice steam locomotive and these passenger cars. These passenger cars I got when I was still living at home as a kid, and they were one of the last things I built for the layout, but my radius on my curves was too tight and they would derail, and I always wanted to be able to run these things and have them look nice. And so when I found the Smuteye Central, I decided I wanted to put the outer loop on so I could run these passenger cars. And then my father gifted me the 611 from the Norfolk and Western. You can still see that very engine today running up in Stanton, Pennsylvania. It's up in Stanton, Pennsylvania, and they run excursion trains on it. So this is the engine that runs that. It was built here in Virginia, and there were 14 of these things built, starting with number 600 up through 613, and this 611 is the only remaining engine of that fleet, and it is known as the Queen of Steam. So here she is pulling the passenger cars. So join me if you like this. Subscribe, like it, join me on my journey as I turn what right now is a skeleton into version 3 of the Smuteye Central, It makes its return once again in HO, running the Queen of Steam and other cars and trains as the industries and that take shape. So join me and we will embark on this journey together as we turn this canvas into a realistic looking model railroad.